Ladies and gentlemen, my name is BrendenPlayz and welcome back to more Total Extreme Wrestling for our All Elite Wrestling save. We are coming off the All Out pay-per-view. We have entered the month of September and we've got some good things coming up very soon, but what we don't have coming up is a pay-per-view. So we've got the next 2.5 months without a pay-per-view. That's just how the schedule goes. So we've got a bit of time to really establish our storylines, which we have an abundance of new ones. We'll get into that in a moment. Yeah, so we're coming off All Out, which of course, if you missed it, well, Cody's still the TNT champion. Didn't have to defend it on that night, but we did crown 2 new champions. Britt Baker is the new women's champion. MJF, we pulled the trigger. You know what? Let's do it. Let's crown the young guy as a star. And we went for it. He beat Jon Moxley in our main event in an 80 rated match. The best match on the show, surprisingly. It was really, really good. And Chris Jericho, Sammy Guevara, still the tag team champions, but Sammy did lose to Adam Page in a singles match on the card. Well, coming off the pay-per-view, let's go ahead and check out how the company is progressing. So when we started at about 63 in a couple areas, 60 in majority, Southeast at 65. Now after the first 3 months of gameplay, we've got that to about 64, 62 in some areas, 65 in a couple. With our main area, which of course is Southeast, we're up to 67, which is, really, really good. I'm very happy with that progression so far. And let's take a look at WWE and see how they're currently tracking. So they're at 77 across the board. They started at 79, so they've actually dropped by about 2 points since the game has started, which is obviously not great for them. And really good for us. We're not that far away. We're still probably a year or 2 away from even getting close to them. But if they are dropping and we're increasing, you never know. As for NXT, their size, well, they've got some very similar to us. 63, 59 in a couple, but they started at 59, 55 in a lot of areas, and they're up to 63, 65. So they've risen huge. So they are progressing rapidly. And it probably won't be long till they overtake us comfortably, which is concerning. But, to be fair to them, they have had some really, really good shows in recent times. 68, 69. They get a lot of 70s, whereas we're kind of, hovering around low 60s a lot of the time. So they're kind of doing a little bit better than us in that regard. But, look, they've got some, probably access to some bigger names as well that they can bring down from developmental, but nonetheless, we are tracking well. So is NXT. So it is kind of a bit of competition brewing there, and it might be a battle of who can kind of advance to that next level the quickest. And by the way, NXT's going, they probably will get there before us. So we might have to step up our game a little bit. Financially, we're still in the red badly, so we need to start making some changes there. We can bring in some fans. We've got 500 fans in attendance at the moment. That'll help a little bit, but clearly we just need to get our pay-per-view revenue up, and that's going to be a little bit of a problem for us. We haven't quite exceeded in doing that. All Out had 179,000 buys in comparison to our previous pay-per-views, 240,000 for Fight for the Fallen, and about 240 for Fighter Fest as well. So even though All Out is considered our bigger show and better show, 179,000 buys is a tough pill to swallow. That is not good. So we need to definitely pick up our game a little bit there and do something better in that regard. But we got some new storylines. We mentioned them briefly on the end of last episode. A couple new ones: Will Hobbs, Ricky Starks, Nightmare Family versus Eddie Kingston's family. Still going to keep going with MJF and Moxley, Hardy and Brian Cage, Inner Circle feuding with Omega and Page, FTR Young Bucks, Cody and Miro, and we'll keep going with Baker and Sheeta. So that'll be the staple of our show. We want to try and introduce a couple more storylines as well, at least for Dark, and maybe try and get some guys like Darby Allin involved in a storyline. He's someone that we just don't really have an opponent for him. Lance Archer's another guy. We need to try and get himself involved a little bit more as well. So I'm going to try and find something for them, whether they work with someone a little bit lower on the card just to get them in the mix. That may be what we have to do. Colt Cabana, for example, he's available. He's got about 40 pop. We could also bring in Matt Sydal, Matt Cardona for a bit of a run. We have them available to use. We haven't used them yet, so they are also at our disposal. And of course, SCU, that might not be a bad stable. They can get in there with somebody. So you know, we've got a couple of options, but a lot of our heels are kind of locked up in something. So we have some baby faces that are certainly available. I'm not really too interested in doing face versus face storylines at the moment. So that's kind of causing us a little bit of a problem in kind of establishing what to do next. We have a lot of talent that obviously have no importance. They're right in the bottom of the card, and someone like Will Hobbs is certainly one of them. We need to get him up and moving. Ricky Starks, we want to get him up and moving. We've got big plans for both those two guys. Pillman Jr., we had big plans for, but whilst he did well, I'm a little bit worried about his popularity progression. It wasn't really happening for him. In fact, he's going down in popularity instead of going up. So I'm not sure why that's the case. I think it's this bad momentum he's got. So, you know, maybe having him work some matches on Dark or some pre-show matches and getting him some wins may be the key there to kind of moving him up the card. And again, the women as well, you know, Ivelisse, Diamante, we need to get them moving up and try and position them into being potential contenders for the Women's Championship coming up soon. You know, Priscilla Kelly, she's shown some really good signs, and her popularity, you know, she's actually surging up in popularity. I'm not sure if that's from our doing. I feel like it's not, but she is surging up the ranks in popularity, which is quite promising. Serena Deeb now joining our ranks as well. Tay Conti, a couple of decent names we can work with. Thunder Rosa, we've brought her in as well. So we've got her now able to be utilized, and she's really risen up the ranks in terms of popularity as well. So some good names there. And our women's division is starting to do quite well in terms of gaining some really good women, but we just have to start getting them that popularity that they need, and at the moment we haven't quite done that. Kris Statlander, she's at 32 pop. She started at 31, so a small little improvement for her after a pay-per-view win as well. So some good signs, and Statlander, she's still healthy for us, so we can utilize her in some sort of way as a potential opponent for Britt Baker as well. Not a bad matchup there. Maybe we can have her work with Ivelisse or Diamante for the time being. So that might be one of the storylines we might look to implement, another women's storyline or two, at least to give us something extra for Dark. Speaking of Dark, let's go ahead and advance. Let's get ourselves ready to book the upcoming Dark episode. So still got Omega out. I'm not sure how far away he is from returning, hopefully very soon. 12 days, so definitely when Kenny Omega does return, we're going to have Adam Page and Omega try and get those tag titles back and probably not succeed, and we'll work from that there. Orange Cassidy's got an incident involving him. He organized a poker tournament, so very good. Rick Knox, lots of poker tournaments, there's 2. And Nick Jackson and Chris Jericho. Nick Jackson was accused of being absorbed by his phone when he should be paying attention to a locker room meeting, and Nick Jackson getting in a little bit of trouble there, so there you go. So last time we had Dark, we got a 52 rated show, and our Dark episodes have been hovering around low 40s, the occasional 50. I think if we can start kind of being a little bit more consistent in the 50 area, especially just having that one really solid main event every show, that might be one way that we can kind of get that there. So that's going to try and be our plan. And obviously our venue, we're going to stick with doing the All Elite Wrestling Arena. Just keep using that. 500 fans, we can get people in there. And that's just a way that we can make sure that we have the right amount of attendance as we, you know, try and simulate the whole COVID thing. But with that being said, let's go ahead and book this week's Dark. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and show this week's results on AEW Dark. We had a pre-show match. Brian Pillman Jr. took on Marco Stunt. We gave Pillman the win, 41 for that one. I actually was a little bit surprised. Marco Stunt actually has, I think, 30 popularity or so, which is pretty good. Pillman Jr., despite the fact that he's losing popularity, his performances stay pretty good. So we can get that momentum building. I feel like that might be the key to trying to turn him around a little bit. We kicked off the main show with Vicky Guerrero announcing that she's going to be with Nyla Rose, and she's demanding that Nyla Rose gets a title shot. Ivelisse, Diamante, and Kris Statlander all opposing that, and we started a new storyline. We're going to have a fatal 4-way situation between those 4 women, and a bit of a championship race, you know, title hunt over the next couple of months, and that should fill in a bit of time for the women and try and get all 4 of those women elevated a little bit, hopefully. 44 for that one, so a pretty decent start. Ricky Starks defeated Austin Gunn in a 24 rated match. Starks 36, Gunn 22. Both guys not a lot of popularity, so maybe suffering a little bit there. But again, we wanted to try and get Ricky a win, try and turn his momentum around, and that kind of kicked off the Will Hobbs and Ricky Starks storyline there. We are going to pair Ricky with Taz, and hopefully Taz can get Ricky Starks back on track and go with that, because I do like that real life pairing, so I figured let's just go with it. Darby Allin had a vignette for 46, so we're continuing to try and just build up Darby Allin without overexposing him too much. Stu Grayson took on Jungle Boy for a 50 rated match. Stu 41, Jungle Boy 53. So we gave Jungle Boy the win, so building up that Dark Order and Jurassic Express storyline there. So pretty good stuff, I like that, that's good. We had the Natural Nightmares, they took on the Initiative for 40, Dustin Rhodes 47, QT 33, Peter Avalon 33, and Brandon Cutler 38. So we need to get Brandon Cutler to turn. I think we are going to turn him as a heel, I believe. I'm not sure. So we are in the process of changing his gimmick. So we have changed it. So it received an initial rating of awful. So not a great start to his gimmick change. So an awful rating. To be fair, it probably is awful. So we're going to have Brandon in there with Peter and try and make another tag team out of it. I know that they probably weren't a team for all that long, but look, there's nothing else for those guys to do. We need low-end tag teams in the division as well. Main event, we had Shawn Spears and Miro one-on-one. So I wanted to get Miro another win, and I figured Shawn Spears, he's a guy we're going to start to probably, put a little bit lower down the card, take some losses. So I thought he might be a good opponent for Miro in a 51 rated match. Not too bad. Miro only performing at 60, which is a little disappointing. Would have hoped to have seen a bit more out of him. But hopefully we can start to turn those efforts around a little bit more. Maybe try and find what match type is his best one. Maybe he needs to be more brawling situations or shorter matches. I'm not sure. We'll figure it out over the next few shows. But it gives us a 47 rated dark. Dynamite is booked. Let's go ahead and check out the pre-show matches. We're going to start things off with Shanna and Nyla Rose. I wanted to see where Nyla Rose is as a competitor. Obviously, we've got her now in the title mix in that contendership race. So I wanted to see, what type of performances we can expect from her. 47 in this one, albeit it was a shorter match, so that may have helped. But again, good stuff. Shanna 30 and Nyla picking up the win. 43 overall. I'll take that. For the women, that's pretty good. Colt Cabana took on Griff Garrison for a 40 rated match. Colt 45. Interesting there. Colt getting a 45 rated and Griff Garrison 28. So I've realized we're probably neglecting Colt Cabana a little bit. I think we could probably get a little bit more use out of him. I don't really like how he's in the Dark Order. I think that's just silly. So I might even try to maybe look to transition him out of the Dark Order and just have him as a straight babyface. I feel like that could be a little bit more useful going forward. And we gave Brian Pillman Jr. another win over Michael Nakazawa for 33, Pillman 34, and Nakazawa 31. So again, Pillman Jr. has bad momentum. We're trying to overturn that a little bit to try and maybe try and boost his popularity, because we're going to still have him in the mix with Eddie Kingston's family versus the Nightmare family. We're going to have Brian Pillman Jr. a part of that still, and kind of have him be the guy who's the link between those two storylines from the previous ones. So we're going to have that, and as a way to keep Brian still on TV in the mix and something as well. Alright, we opened up the show with a MJF Championship Celebration. You knew it was coming. MJF, he's got, he's hired out all these people to come out and make this, spectacular. The ring, it's all set up beautifully. He's got, his family there in the front row. It's a big deal. MJF, he's got confetti coming down, and he's got the spotlight all on him, only for Jon Moxley to come down and ruin it all and take care of MJF and Wardlow. MJF probably escapes a little bit, doesn't really, get scathed too much, but Wardlow takes the brunt of it. I wanted to set up for a rematch between Wardlow and Jon Moxley, but they do have bad chemistry together, so that's, a little bit of a downer. I would have liked to have had maybe a no DQ match between those two and have Moxley get in a big fight and prove that he's good enough to get a rematch at MJF. Not to be, but overall, great segment, great way to kick off the show, 83 rated. And this is the beauty about having MJF with a lot more popularity. He's just going to have great segments all the time. Even though Moxie's dropped down a little bit, I still feel as though we can get that popularity back just because of how good MJF is on the mic. He's going to have great storylines, great segments, no matter what. Chris Jericho had a one-on-one match with Scorpio Sky, and this is probably one of Chris Jericho's best performances I've seen in a while, 82. Normally he's hovering around the low 70s and hasn't been that great, but this is much better. Scorpio 43, a 73 rated match. Wanted to give Jericho a win just to kind of keep him out there, give him an excuse to come out and cut a promo, which is what he does next. Chris Jericho mocks Adam Page about his beatdown at All Out, and he questions Kenny Omega's loyalties. So, is Kenny Omega still with Adam Page? You know, where is he? Why didn't he help? Etc. And of course, we continue to maybe boost up the Inner Circle there. 87 rated segment. This storyline between the Inner Circle versus Adam Page and Kenny Omega is really hitting beautiful heights. When we get Kenny Omega back in a few weeks, we're gonna probably give Kenny a week or two before we go with a big tag match. Give him a match or two back, and then we're gonna go for that big match. And I feel like that could be one of our best matches we've had in the series. I feel like that could be, you know, 80 plus, especially with this storyline, how good it is. It's, you know, if we can get that storyline heat to maybe 85, I definitely believe the match could be very similar numbers as well. Great segment there. Britt Baker, she's holding a seminar at her, you know, at the dentist place she works at, about how great she is and how she overcame all the odds. She had to return from injury, and how wonderful of a person she is, and how much better she is than Hikaru Shida. Of course, she's now the new women's champion, 43 rated for that segment. So obviously the plan with Britt Baker is really honing in on angles and segments and hoping that she can deliver in that regard. I think that's the best way to get her over. So we're going to continue going down that trend. So far, her numbers aren't amazing, and you probably wonder, well, you know, should we have dropped the championship from, you know, Shida? I'm not sure. Time will tell, but I felt as though it was a good opportunity to at least give Baker the chance. If it doesn't work, we can go in a different direction, but if it works out, fantastic, and we can just keep going with Britt and have, you know, a different babyface to throw in her at some point. Speaking of the women, Ivelisse took on Priscilla Kelly for 25. Priscilla Kelly has damaged her neck. Wow. Okay, so we wanted to give Ivelisse a win to set her up to be a part of this #1 contenders race. Ivelisse 38, Priscilla 39. The crowd just didn't have much investment in either woman. They probably don't have enough popularity. But yeah, Priscilla has damaged her neck. I feel like that could be a long-term injury. That is not going to be good for Priscilla, who actually has been performing pretty well. I was thinking, you know, we might probably release Bea Priestley and maybe keep Priscilla. So that may be a reason to get rid of both, especially if this neck injury is severe. I wonder if Ivelisse botched anything there. She's been prone to maybe do something like that. Anyways, moving on, JR has interviewed the Young Bucks about their devastating loss over FTR for 62. Yeah, the Young Bucks just can't quite deliver in a talking segment. Their key is matches. They do really well in matches, but just the talking stuff just isn't really working with them. Even though I had Jim Ross in there to try and help, still just getting 62, so we're losing heat there. That's probably the problem with this storyline at the moment. Neither team is that strong on the mic where they can really gain a lot of storyline heat, and there's no other teams that both teams can really work with where they can get that, you know, classic of a match to get the storyline heat to where it needs to be. So we're in a bit of a tricky situation with this one. Miro had a match against Peter Avalon, a 2-minute squash. Miro 66, that's more like it. Peter Avalon 32, 52 rated match. So yeah, obviously Miro coming off a win at All Out. We wanted to give him a Dynamite debut where he just comes in and just destroys Peter Avalon. So Miro, we've got him as a babyface. So he is going to be a babyface, even though he's going to feud with probably Cody and beat him. There is other guys. There's more big guys that are heels. So for Miro, for his place on the roster to really work out effectively, I think he's got to be a babyface. And it does set up for Miro and MJF potentially down the line. Miro and Brian Cage, Lance Archer, Miro and Chris Jericho. So I feel like there's some better matchups for him going forward if he remains babyface. So that's why I've done that. And post-match, Cody Rhodes came out and welcomed Miro to AEW as they shook hands and they wished each other good luck for their match. So at the moment, you know, there's no bad blood. They're, you know, respectful of each other, but there's a chance that could change. 78 for that one. So that's a good way to really build up the Cody and Miro match, and that's what we needed to do, definitely. Brian Cage took on Christopher Daniels for 61. This is good. This is a better match. Brian Cage 61, Daniels 49. So even though Daniels is what 50 plus, he still can really go. Performs close to 50, which is really handy. Brian Cage 61. I feel like we're starting to really gain a bit of ground with Brian Cage. His performances are improving. His matches are getting a little bit better, so I feel like we're starting to get things right. We had Matt Hardy on commentary. Basically, the storyline there is both guys are in, you know, high up the rankings in AEW, so they want to try and overcome each other to take that next leap into maybe the top 3 instead of being in the low end of the top 5. Brody Lee cut a promo on Luchasaurus for 43. Wow. I'm not sure, you know, maybe having Dasha in there instead of a different announcer maybe hurt it, but yeah, that's not a great talking segment, especially Brody Lee. And as I said, throughout this entire series, I've been very disappointed with Brody Lee, so I don't know, you know, we'll have to wait and see. But so we're going to do Brody Lee and Luchasaurus in this one. We've been building up to this for a little bit, so let's see it. 61, okay, that's all right. Luchasaurus 50, Brody Lee 63. I'll give Brody Lee credit, that's better. Now we did do a wild brawl. Now keep that in mind, which I feel like is the reason why this match was a little bit better than what it should have been. So we went with the wild brawl here, and we gave Brody Lee the win, of course. Basically, Dark Order's been getting beat by, you know, week after week after week, and Brody Lee decided, you know what, I'm going to step in here myself. I'm going to get the job done for myself, because my other guys in the group can't do it. So Brody Lee came in and he picked up the big win. So we might separate these two teams now and go in a different direction. You know, especially Jungle Boy's been doing really, really well. So I think finding him another opponent, maybe a singles run, might be a good idea as well. We then had Eddie Kingston's family be interrupted by the Nightmare family. Pillman Jr. out there with him as well. So we kind of started this storyline. So Eddie Kingston talked about how he's reunited with his family, and then Dustin interrupts him and says, you know what, I want to avenge for my own family, for my brother Cody, after what you guys have put him through, and after you screwed him over at All Out and cost him the win by interrupting and getting yourself interfered into that match. So easy little way to transition from Cody over to Dustin. QT's there, Pillman's there as well, so we could do a 6-man tag match at some point, and that gives you know, the Lucha Bros and Eddie Kingston something to keep them busy as we, you know, probably give them a win to kind of get this new stable up and running. 58 for that segment, that's pretty good. Our main event, I was a little bit concerned about this one. We tried to do something bit risky. We just didn't really have a great main event set because, you know, Moxie, MJF are already busy. Young Bucks, we could have went with them, but we decided that we'll give FTR, the team that just beat the Young Bucks, another chance to get in the spotlight, and they had a match against Best Friends. FTR picked up the win. Wheeler 66, Harwood 55, Taylor 49, and Trent 50. So good stuff there in the end. We advanced the Young Bucks FTR storyline, of course. So look, FTR, we did go for a steal the show in this match, which could have been maybe a deterrent. I'm not sure, but we had to do one steal the show on this event, which we hadn't done one yet. So I felt as though the only match that could probably pull it off would be this one. I feel like it may have elevated a little bit. 67 is certainly probably better than what I expected. Not the main event that I typically would have liked. For a Dynamite, I would have thought maybe we can try and shoot for 70 plus, but you know, look, that's okay. You know, good stuff in the end. We followed it up though with the Young Bucks super kicking FTR, and they demanded a rematch. So not sure when we'll do the rematch, maybe on another Dynamite, but at some point these two teams will lock up again, and and we'll see. But yeah, 67 for that one, so that will help out the storyline. Like I said, we can't quite get amazing segments between these two teams, which is a little bit of a problem, but, you know, matches are the key, and we can keep getting some better matches between these teams against other teams. Hopefully we get the storyline hit up there. Overall, a 66 rated show, so not too bad. Okay, so 66 in the end, which is about where our company's popularity is at, which is the reason why we're not really growing that much, because we're not exceeding that number enough, even though we had some great segments. And to be fair, you know, Jericho and Scorpio was good. We had, you know, a couple of matches all in the 60s, so there was some good content there, but maybe just not quite enough. We need a little bit better, a little bit higher numbers to get those better results. Alright, so moving on from that Dynamite, let's check out some of the results that's been going on. WWE hired Robert Sharp. He'll be working in NXT UK. Yeah, good luck to him. Alright, so let's have a look at our rating. We had 745,000 viewers, 500 people attended, so yeah, about what we expected. NXT, their viewership, 1.4 million, so yeah, they've just got more TV deals in general. But even if you just count their USA network, it's 1.2 million. So they're still well ahead of us in terms of ratings, which is a bit of a concern. But nonetheless, that's okay. We just got to keep doing our thing. Their show, they had a 67 rating, so slightly above us. Let's take a look at Priscilla's injury. Let's see how bad it is. I feel like a damaged neck could be a long one. So only 2 days. Wow, okay, so I guess it's just a very minor injury. You know, you never know from a damaged neck. I guess it's not an official injury, but you just never know. Sometimes that could be a month, 2 months, but 2 days, that's absolutely fine, which is good because she's been doing really well for us, to be fair. We know we haven't given her a big push. You know, she's done quite well from what we've given her. All right, let's take a look at some of the popularity swings. Let's see if there was any. Jericho still rising up to maybe 83. Another good segment there. You know, Cody's got his popularity back after the loss by looks. Moxley, 72 back in the Midwest, but other than that, nothing. MJF still 62, so that is fine. So still not much progression there. That's to be expected, I suppose. Miro has now gone from 59 to up into the 60s, so a good segment with Cody has got him a little bit of improvement, which is amazing to see. Like I said, the more we can get Miro over, the more we can have another main event player on our roster, which is clearly what we are striving to accomplish. The Young Bucks 57, so I feel like they went down a little bit more than that. Maybe I could be wrong, but that's good that they're only 1 point down from their best. Brian Cage, no improvement despite having a decent week. Cash Wheeler, he's at 57 as well, so he's gone up again this week. So a good win in the main event, and I wonder if Dax has done the same. Yes, so FTR, a good win in the main event. Now they have equal popularity with the Young Bucks, so both teams are right neck and neck, which is really good to have. We'll close it out here, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of TEW. When we come back, we're going to still be on the build towards our next pay-per-view full gear. We're a fair while away, but like I said, we probably might have a big special coming up soon. I think when we can have Kenny Omega come back and do that big tag team championship match, we might brand that as a special Dynamite of some sorts. So I'm looking forward to that one. Maybe Young Bucks and FTR rematch on that one as well. Not sure, but that should be some good stuff there. So looking forward to that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like on it and subscribe to see more, and I'll see you on the next one.